Hello students, this is Dr. Gaurangi Bhatt here, your English teacher. Today we are going to discuss Chapter 2, We Are Not Afraid to Die If We Can All Be Together by Gordon Cook and Alan East from Hornbill textbook in English for class 11. Next slide. First of all, I would like to give you introduction of this chapter. We Are Not Afraid to Die is a story of extreme courage and skill exhibited by Gordon Cook and Alan East. In July 1976, the narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan, and daughter Susan set sail from Plymouth, England to duplicate the round-the-world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. The first part of their journey was smooth and enjoyable. Before entering the Indian Ocean, he took two sailors to help him navigate across the stormy sea. On the second day, they encountered bad weather. A giant wave smashed into their boat, Waywalker, and caused severe damage. Next slide. The narrator himself suffered severe injury but brought his boat under control. The biggest problem was to save the boat from sinking. Using electric pumps, they were able to remain afloat. The family and the crew remained cheerful. The narrator then decided to try and reach Amsterdam, about 165 kilometers away. At about 6 p.m. on January 6, they anchored offshore a tiny island where all the 28 inhabitants came to cheer them. Next slide. Now I would like to tell you about the characters. First, the narrator, a 37 years old businessman. Second, we have Mary, the narrator's wife. Third, Suzanne, 7 years old, the narrator's daughter. Jonathan, 6 years old, the narrator's son. Two crewmen, American Larry Wiesel, Swiss Herb Seliger. Next slide. Now I would like to tell you the summary of this chapter. Summary has been divided into 8 parts. First, we have The Voyage Begins. It was July 1976. The narrator, his wife Mary, son Jonathan 6, and daughter Susan 7 set sail from Plymouth, England. They wanted to duplicate the round-the-world voyage made 200 years earlier by Captain James Cook. For the last 16 years, they had spent all their leisure time in sharpening their seafaring skills. Their boat, Waywalker, had been professionally built. It was tested in the roughest weather for months. Next slide. First part of the journey passed peacefully. The first part of their journey, planned 3 years, passed pleasantly. They sailed down the west coast of Africa. They were heading towards east. They took on 2 crewmen, American Larry Wiesel and Swiss Herb Seliger. They were to help them tackle one of the roughest seas, the southern Indian Ocean. Next slide. Confronted strong gales. For the next few weeks, they confronted strong gales. The size of the waves was alarming and went up to 15 meters, as high as their main mast. They celebrated the Christmas in spite of rough weather. The weather continued to be bad even on the New Year's Day. Next slide. All precautions taken. To slow the boat down, they dropped the storm jib. They tied thick ropes, attached lifelines, put on oilskins and life jackets. The disaster came at about 6 p.m. The wind dropped, the sky became dark, then there was a thunder sound. A tremendous explosion took place. The deck shook completely. A wall of green and white water broke over the ship. Next slide. Capsizing of Waywalker. The narrator's head crashed into the wheel. He was losing consciousness but felt quite peaceful a few meters away. Waywalker was near capsizing. His left ribs cracked. His mouth was filled with blood and broken teeth. Suddenly the front door was thrown open and his wife Mary appeared. She cried, "We are sinking." Larry and Herb were pumping. Their clothes, crockery, charts, toys and tins scattered in deep water. Next slide. Pinpricks in the large ocean. By morning on January 3, the pump had reduced the water level quite under control. They could take rest for 2 hours by turns, but there was still a big leak below the water line. The boat was not strong enough to take them to Australia. He checked his charts, then calculated that the only one hope for them was if they could reach Amsterdam, a French scientific base. Their only aim was to reach there. Next slide. We aren't afraid of dying. The narrator went to comfort the children. Jonathan said that they were not afraid of dying if they can all be together. The narrator was speechless. He tried his best to protect the weak and starboard side of the boat. On 6 January, the weather improved. The narrator again tried to calculate their position. Next slide. Cheerful landing in the most beautiful island. Waywalker rode out the storm. The narrator made several calculations. If they were lucky, they could expect to see the island at about 5 p.m. He woke up at 6 p.m. and he thought they must have missed the island. Just then, Jonathan and Susan gave him a hug and said he was the best daddy in the world. The narrator rushed to the deck and saw Amsterdam before his own eyes. When his feet touched land the next day, he thought of cheerfulness and optimism of all people on the boat, which made them pass through the worst stress. Thank you.